Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine. Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
All right. Hello, and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast. I am your host, Joe Grumbine with Willow Creek Springs. And today I have a very special guest with me, and his name is Troy Burgan. Troy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So,
good to be here.
Troy has an interesting tale, a bunch of interesting tales, but Troy's a unique guest in that he's probably the one that'll be on this show that I've known the very longest. Troy and I go back since we were teenagers, literally. And
40 years, I think.
Been about 40 years. Yeah, it's been a long ass time. So we used to hang out with his friend, my uncles, and just we're part of the same sort of family growing up, and hunted and went to the beach and did all the things that youngsters do. And that's kind of where it all began. And then it's a crazy thing because a few years back, and it was about five years ago, 6 years ago, something like that, a while ago, I get a phone call.
Yeah, about 5 years
I hadn't talked to you in a while.
Yeah.
And
life happens.
Yep.
Different states.
That's a thing too. That's probably a topic of conversation in the healthy living world, because time is a thing that as we get older, we lose track of. Mm-hmm. And remember when I was a kid, I used to paint houses, and I talked to all these old people, which I am now one of. Oh,
Hey, knock it off.
This is going to be a particularly interesting episode because we got a bunch of dogs in the mix.
New dogs that are being introduced to me. This is going to be interesting.
Enough. Yes. And all right. So we're just going to let this thing roll. We're good. It just makes it more interesting, I suppose.
Yeah.
But anyways, I talk to all these old people and ask them for their, bits of wisdom. I'm in my 20s, you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever. Mm-hmm. Tell me something to help. And they all had the same thing to say. Oh, they said other things too, but they all said, watch out. Time goes by faster as you get older. And man, were they right.
Yeah.
And I lost 10 or 15 years, I think.
I'm the old man that's telling the youngsters about it now because it's unbelievable.
It is, absolutely. So between the time that I had seen you last and the time that you called me up, I really didn't know what was going on with you. I knew you'd moved to Idaho, and we ran into each other on a camping trip
here and there,
a couple of times, but really not a whole lot of catching up. And you were going through some stuff, and we were able to start working together. And now it's kind of a really great experience. Now we've been able to become closer probably than we were back when we were kids.
By a long shot, I'd say. Yeah.
So there's a good story here. But I'd like to kind of, as we're going through, this is kind of the intro show, and I want our guests to get to know Troy, because he'll be coming on here more than just a couple of times, because he's got a lot of things to share on the healthy living world. And let's rewind all the way back to those, youngster years, and give us a little snapshot of who you were and what you were up to, and then that one fateful day.
Yeah. So I was in a bad motorcycle wreck. I was planning on being a cop. That was my only real life ambition forever. The long line of cops in the family and friends and stuff. So I bought a motorcycle when I was 22 or 21, 22 years old. And I was getting prepared physically and everything else to go to the police academy. That was my plan. but I bought a bike. It was supposed, I was thinking that it was going to be economical, and it was. But anyways,
such wisdom.
Such wisdom.
You and Jimmy with all the wisdom.
Oh yeah.
I'm
not the only one that learned this lesson.
I think he was going to be a cop too, wasn't he?
Yeah. No, David was. Well, Jim, I think we all were at
too.
one point in time. We were all talking about being cops.
Inside stuff.
Anyways, yeah, I had gotten this bike. I was preparing myself to get to the police academy, so I was in good shape. Luckily, I mean, thank God, because I don't
probably saved your life.
Yeah, the ER doc didn't think that I would have had a chance if I was not in the physical condition that I was in. Plus, I was 22 years old. But right. Yeah, so no helmet, and coming home from work, and got into a broadside motorcycle wreck when I was doing at least 50 miles per hour. And I was acting like a young idiot. It was a hit and run accident. Although it was deemed not my fault, older, wiser man would not have that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
I was aggressive and invincible, and it took me down hard. I was in a vicious motorcycle wreck. Most of the damage was to my left leg, and that's what's plagued me all these years is my left leg was blown to pieces. My femur was blown apart. My fib and tib were blown apart. There was extensive, muscle and nerve damage. It was a 2-year recovery process. The bones wouldn't fuse. And so I kept on having to go back in for outpatient surgeries, trying to get those bones to slam together and fuse. So I was on crutches for 2 years before I was finally able to advance to a cane. But I can go on and on about the horrifying
mangled
experience.
We could just say
I was mangled, and so it changed everything. All of a sudden there was no way that I thought that I was going to be able to overcome it and be a cop anyways. I finally had to come to terms with not going to happen. I'm not going to jump over a 6-foot wall.
I was going to say, that obstacle course probably isn't going to be a friendly thing too.
Yeah, I did beat the odds as far as what they told me I was gonna, have for the rest of my life. They said permanent brace, probably a cane. And I begged, why am I even keeping the leg? I mean, I didn't like to look at it. I didn't like to touch it. Nothing was comfortable about the whole thing. But anyways, I did overcome that. I don't walk with a brace.
Not at all.
Don't use any.
Walk upstairs.
I walk upstairs. And I was in good physical condition, and I've stayed that way. I've put on some weight over the years, but I've always been a weightlifter, and that's been my thing. That's what keeps me moving. That's what keeps the arthritis from setting in as much. It keeps me, healthy. So I lift weights and I promote it and everything else. But the reason that I reached out to Joe finally was, besides a painkiller addiction that I had to deal with. I had to deal with that on my own because they turned me into a pharmaceutical junkie. They give me anything for the injuries that I have.
Right. And that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
It's a recurring theme though, as you listening to the show. We've had many guests that get into the pill society and all of that. And you obviously had gotten into that. And that was at the peak of its biggest issue, where doctors were just giving them out, throwing them out like Skittles.
And when the doctors would see my medical history and my X-rays,
what do you want?
They would give me anything I wanted, within reason, obviously. But so I did have to kick that, and that was brutal. That was living hell. That was the biggest demon I ever had to face in those regards. I had no idea how bad that hook was. Anyways, but I couldn't get off of everything else: the muscle relaxers, the anti-inflammatories, the sleep aids. I mean, on and on. I was a slave to pharmaceuticals. I was a slave to what the doctors were prescribing me.
Right.
And it was just wrecking my quality of life. It truly was. After it was 30 years of all of that, basically, maybe a little more. And
this is literally the best that American Western medicine has to offer. Like you weren't, scratching down the free clinic. You were able to get the care that you needed.
Yeah.
And they didn't hold back. They weren't like, well, we have this thing, but you can't have it. Like they literally did everything for you that they could possibly do.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the part that I'd like to beat home, because, when we get into natural solutions, these are old hillbilly remedies. These are the things that the old Asian lady, stirred up in her pot,
exactly.
Pulled some flowers out of the ground and made something with it. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's why I called Joe after, I've always known what you were up to and what was going on. We had the family connection. So I always knew what Joe was doing and everything. And there's always been a great respect. Joe is very, very good at what he does. And I've known that the whole time we've known each other, even as a child. Joe was into horticulture, tinkerer, yeah, and really, really good at it. And anyone that knew that about Joe. He was special. So I knew that he was doing the CBD thing. I just didn't know much about it. I knew what the claims were a little bit, but I didn't know any of the science behind it. I just knew that Joe was doing it, and he'd been doing it for a long time. And it was time for me to try something else to get off of all of that crap that I'd been taking for so many years. So that's why I reached out.
Well, and I remember that call, because it was to me, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
We hadn't talked in a while, and I didn't really have any idea what you were going through.
Yeah. You knew I'd been in a bad wreck.
Yeah. I knew all of those things, but it wasn't weighing on my mind every day. You
weren't losing sleep thinking
about it. No, I really wasn't. I just had other things that preoccupied myself. But then when you came and you told me these things, I was like, well, I've got a lot of things. Let's try. Maybe it'll help,
Yeah. I think I told you I'm looking for the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
You said, I'm pretty sure you just found it.
Right.
I remember that.
I know we got something here that'll do it for you. It's
just,
figuring it out.
Yeah.
And then you call me back, and you're like, hey, it wasn't too long. You called me back.
I was immediate. I had tried over the years, especially with the anti-inflammatories.
Right.
We all know how bad those are. People think, just take the ibuprofen, but you're swallowing handfuls of this ibuprofen, whether it's prescribed or whether it's Advil or whatever. You're swallowing that stuff by the handful every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not good.
Right.
And I could feel it taking its toll on my body. And no matter what the doctors say, I don't care what they say. They say, oh, you're okay. Just take the medication. That's what they do.
All right.
So anyways, I had tried to stop taking the meds many times over the years, 2-3 days into nothing. And I felt like a little decrepit old man.
Right.
Everything hurt. And I just had to start taking all that crap again to just walk.
Right.
And so anyways, it was immediate.
Yeah.
As soon as I started putting the CBD into my body.
Yeah, I think what did we do? We started you with some drops and some topicals and
some capsules.
Yeah. And it was a simple regimen. I probably got you on the joint juice, which is
I tried
my miracle.
I tried the RAs, which is for rheumatoid arthritis, and I tried the joint juice did it for me.
Yeah, it did it for me too.
And I don't take the joint juice anymore. I take 3 doses, small doses of drops under my tongue 3 times a day. And I don't even feel like I need to do that much. I feel like it's so in my system now.
But the thing that I tell people when you get on a natural regimen that doesn't have all the bad side effects, it's easy to think to yourself, well, I just don't need anything anymore.
Yeah.
And then you stop taking it, and 3 or 4 days into it, it gets out of your system, and you go right back to kind of where you were, except for the part that you've gotten better.
Yeah.
And it unfortunately, I don't know that, any natural remedy is gonna turn you into a 22-year-old youngster with a perfect leg, but to have manageable mobility and pain management and all of that.
It took the place of the prescribed medication. It took the place of it, and I feel better. I feel even my cognitive skills, I feel sharper. I feel better rested. I feel less stressed. I mean, it's not a miracle. I have plenty of stress and anxiety.
Well,
but
I remember though, right off the bat, you told me how it was a big deal, but you were already, or still, or whatever, probably never stopped, but you were going to that gym.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me how people knew you, and saw that you were moving around, and the next thing you know, you're like, hey, people are asking me about this.
Yeah.
And that was, to me, kind of like, wow, that's one of those, like, every once in a while you're going along in life and you get I don't know, like the video game little you're like, oh, you got something's working right, keep going this way.
I like people. I make friends easy, and but this whole thing, this road that I went down with the CBD stuff with Joe was not planned. It wasn't something that I
certainly wasn't seeking you out. I wasn't like, hey, you want to come along on this journey with me?
It was truly an accident.
Right.
I mean, when I say accident, I don't necessarily believe in accidents, but something was in the stars. Yeah.
To an opportunity, and you took action when you should have.
People started asking me. I was also driving a semi for a living, and with all of my injuries, I mean, part of what I have to deal with is a shoulder that the doctors would like to do a full replacement on.
Right.
And it's bone to bone, and it's believed that I may not even have a rotator cuff.
Wow.
Yet I still lift weights like a young man.
Yeah.
All the time, and it keeps everything together. And I'm not going to let the doctors have my shoulder.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was going to work, and truck drivers, some truck drivers get pretty beat up and lots of aches and pains, and they were, hey, what is that I heard that you were doing?
Yeah, it's not crystal meth.
Yeah. And what is this that you're doing? And so I was sharing my experience, and people wanted it.
All right.
People at the gym wanted it, and I kept calling Joe on the phone. Hey, can you send me more of that salve? Hey, can I give more of those capsules? Hey, can I have more of those drops? I mean, it was just on. And, anyone that knows Joe knows that he doesn't have a lot of idle time.
Not a lot, no.
So he was getting a little irritated with me because I was expecting him to just, hey, I'm not a rep, I'm your friend. Send me the shit.
Right, just hook me up.
Yeah, would you
we go way
send
back?
me the shit? I'll pay you for it. Don't make me go to this website.
Right.
I'm not real technical.
Special. Yeah, no, we were less technical than that. You didn't even text message.
I was calling you.
Yeah, you're calling me, and I was like, dude.
Yeah, I don't have time.
I'm
the CEO of a pretty busy company. And I don't have time. You're going to have to, if you're going to do this, be a rep. And I fought him on it. And I fought him on it, and finally stopped taking my phone call and just referred me to the office staff. And he said, hey, if you want this, you're going to have to be a rep. And so I'm all shit. All right. So what do I do to be a rep? And I was just doing it for myself.
Right.
And so I did. I took the online course that he requires for reps. And it just kept snowballing by networking all by itself. People were telling people, and I was getting phone calls, and pretty soon, I was delivering products to people in the parking lot at work, and I was gonna, I had made more money in the parking lot doing this.
I remember when you told me, you had 1 week or something like that, and you're like, dude, I got my paycheck, and I did better hooking up, helping my friends with a better life than I did working graveyard.
Yeah, I was making more money in the parking lot before I climbed up in my truck for a 12-hour shift. And I just was kind of blown away. But the biggest part was I was actually helping people. I never thought that I'd be in that position. And I don't know how far you want me to go with this story about what happened to me.
I think
because it goes on.
I think it's important because this is a story of a journey, and this is an introduction to you. Yeah. So as we get down in future episodes and talk about a deeper subject and go, you know, we can go deep into some things.
Sure.
This is that point of reference. Well, who's Troy? This is the episode where we get to find out who's Troy.
Yeah. And so so good. While I was working, it was the company I was working for, driving that semi, and I live in Idaho, by the way. I'm up there now, but I got COVID real bad in the very beginning of
Real
bad. Almost got me, almost took me. And I was typical male, stubborn, but plus,
all right.
Yeah, you know,
just sleep it off.
Plus they weren't encouraging you to go to the doctor, go to the ER. We called several times because there wasn't any
beds.
Yeah, there was no beds. We're not going to be able to do anything for you.
Right.
Were you fighting the fever? Can you breathe? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
All the regular questions. They were checking in with me daily. I fought the fever for 13 days. Wow. Day 14, it was obvious that something was.
That's a long time to have a fever.
Yeah. And day 14, we made an emergency, visit for me to go and see my regular doctor. And when I got there, everybody started, when they checked my blood,
right, when you'd have
oxygen saturation, all of a sudden I was in a wheelchair.
It's a whole nother ballgame when you're like, running. Oh crap, this guy's.
Yeah, it was in the 70s, which is not good. And so anyways, I was on oxygen off and on for 3 months, full time for a while at home. And they gave me, I was already past they couldn't give me anything to fight the COVID.
Right.
Now it was just an oxygen issue. So anyways, I had some time to reflect. It was a close call. The doctor thought that maybe I had 1 day left. He started telling me, this is what's killing people, Troy.
Wow.
Why didn't you come in? I said, we called.
Yeah.
Why didn't we know that you were this sick?
Right.
Well, we told you.
No, yeah.
Well, why didn't you know about your blood oxygen saturation? I said I was ignorant to that. No one ever said that to me.
Right.
I didn't know anything about
something you just know instinctively.
So anyways, the recovery, from that, I went back to work for 1 week, 3 months into it. And I was having the long haul symptom. I knew that the truck was not a safe place for me to be. Eddie, that's enough. Hey. No. Yeah, if they bite my dog and give them cracking skulls.
Hey, you don't need to do that.
So anyways, I did a lot of reflecting, soul searching, questioning what I was doing with my precious time.
Right.
And the CBD thing had taken off, and on its own, I was making almost as much regularly as I was at work. I mean,
and when you say CBD, I mean, I always try to be really clear that this is not CBD. I mean, it is CBD, but it's not like
so much more.
This is holistic remedies that happen to have CBD in them.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the important thing. I mean, there's a lot of CBD things that I think are great, and then there's a bunch that are crap, and I don't like to lump kind of what we do into that for that reason, because it's like I just think it's a different thing.
It is.
And that's
I've learned a lot about the industry, and it's what Willow Creek Springs does is unparalleled, and everyone can see it that knows anything about it, with all the other things that are in there.
Right.
But my point was, I wasn't going to drive a truck anymore. And I decided, let's go down the road with this. I had done a farmer's market, which I had no idea the reception that I would, how successful that would be.
Well, especially in Idaho. I mean, Idaho is still a prohibitionist state that still can't figure itself out.
Yeah.
And, I can remember going out there, and the first time we came out there, I think there was still a lot of people that were, still
that's marijuana.
Not sure.
That's too close to dope.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's farmers, ranchers,
right.
Just cowboys. You got a different, it's very red out there.
Right.
But people, a lot of my customers are old farmers,
I remember
ranchers.
The one old guy that came to mind
with the
with
cowboy
his hands.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of stories I can tell,
Right.
stuff like that. But anyways, yeah, I started doing events. I started doing all kinds of stuff, anything. I do gun shows, I do craft shows. I mean,
Yeah.
everywhere I go, it seems to be, people are really starting to seek this out. And it was an accident. It is nothing that I had planned. I didn't see this on my horizon. And it was truly an accident. And now every day, I mean, it gets real slow for me in the winter because I do events and Idaho rolls up the sidewalks in the winter. But everywhere I go, I'm helping people now. They come to me and I don't have all the answers, but I have Joe. So, I'm learning more and more.
I think a lot of this, and the whole healthy living element of this is you're, I'm going to do a reveal here. So you're a very empathic person, but a lot of times people that are sensitive to other people don't pay attention to what's going on with themselves. You can help everybody else, but you a lot of times will just like look over yourself, but you at least had the wherewithal to follow your own instinct. I think at least, even in just reaching out, it was a lot of people wouldn't have gone down that road. It wouldn't have come to their mind. And I think that is a piece of this puzzle, the healthy living. We have, I believe, inside of us, all of us, some louder than others, but we all have that little quiet voice that knows what's up.
Yeah.
And I think the more we listen to that and the more, we have loud, amplified drum beats from big companies trying to sell us crap through doctors.
Yeah.
And that's what healthcare and I guess that's what it is. Healthcare has become. And I think when we listen to, our inner selves, we don't find ourselves looking for a pill. We find ourselves looking for an answer. We find ourselves looking for somebody that maybe has some experience. And I think that's what's really happening is you're literally practicing.
Yeah.
Because you're meeting new people all the time and you have a wealth of your own experiences, but now you have the experiences of people that you're meeting. And then, I've been out there with shows. I mean, I did all that for a long time too. And then, being around, I've come out with you a few times now, and
times
when people come up and you see somebody and I can tell this person has been helped by you already, and they need that one thing that works for them. But then there's always these people that come to you and ask that question, like, you're going to be able to help a person sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I remember that one lady that the daughter had the seizures.
Yeah.
And I was like, here's one.
Yeah. It happens all the time. That's a big one. She was having mini seizures all day. And she started doing I think it was a 1,500 milligram drops or the 1,000.
I think so. Yeah. I think we started around just basic drops.
But yeah, I started talking to her regularly and sending it to her to Wyoming, and her daughter didn't have a seizure for like 30 days.
Right.
And now she has one periodically compared to mini seizures all day long. I get stories like that constantly.
And that's huge. Like that's stuff that Western medicine couldn't fix, and that's the thing. I think, and this is kind of a recurring concept that keeps coming up, but people will try natural remedies when they've tried everything else and it didn't work. But I can't help but say, what if we were to try them first?
Yeah.
And we wouldn't maybe have to try these other remedies that we know have issues.
Yeah.
Well, Troy, this is about coming to the close of this intro, and I want to give you an opportunity to let people know how to reach you. You pretty much are the guy in Idaho, the whole state, or you and your team.
Yes.
And so that being said, there's going to be people that are listening to this that don't know anything about anything, and they're like, whoa, who's this guy in Idaho?
Yeah.
So this is your chance to tell everybody who you are, how they can get a hold of you, and all of that good stuff.
Okay. Well, like Joe said, my name is Troy Burgan, and I live in Southern Idaho, not too far from Twin Falls. I live in a little town, little rural area near a little town called Gooding. So I'm easy to contact. My phone number is a 208 area code, and it's 316-6003. That's the easiest way. You can call or text me. My email address is another way to get a hold of me, and my email address is my name. It's troy.burgan@gmail.com. And so I'm easy to get a hold of. My wife and me both work on this together. Her name is Heather, but I'm usually the phone calls come to me. But we are in it together, and you can find us at a lot of different events. We do drop ship as well. So if you're in the neighborhood at all, if you're seeing this, just give me a shout. I answer as many questions as I can, but I still feel, special enough to call Joe personally and say, hey,
I answer the phone more often now than I did.
Yeah. So if I don't know an answer to a question, I've got a great support team with Joe and his staff at the Willow Creek Springs, office. So anyways, that's
fantastic. And we will put, when we get your bio, we'll put your contact information right in it. So they'll be able to click on a link and it'll all be right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, Troy. Well, I'm glad you were able to come out here and do this, and we'll have a lot more to talk about in future episodes.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys all next time.